Well, good afternoon to everyone, or good evening. Today we are going to read a sutta from the Samyutta Nikaya, from the book 11, and the sutta is the number 4, Vepacitti Sutta. So I will share the screen with you. Wait a minute. Here it is. So um, let's put some background to this sutta. This is a sutta that talk about a war or a battle between the Asuras and the Devas. The Asuras were like demonic gods or titans, and the Devas, in this case, because this sutta belongs to the Sakka Samyutta, or the collection that the Buddha, or the Buddha, specifically the Buddha, had some conversations with Sakka that he is the Lord of the Devas, but specifically is the Lord of the Tawatinsa. The Tawatinsa is the second heaven, from the human level. We have the human level, then the four great kings realm, and then the Tawatinsa. Uh, the Tawatinsa is a place that we can compare with the Valhalla, or with the Olympus. So the gods that inhabit this realm have similarities. So I will read the sutta, and then I will make some comments. Atsawati, the Blessed One, said this: once in the past, bhikkhus, the Devas and the Asuras were arrayed for battle. Then Vepacitti, Lord of the Asuras, addressed the Asuras thus: dear sirs, in the impending battle between the Devas and the Asuras, if the Asuras win, the Devas are defeated, bind Sakka, Lord of the Devas, by his four limbs and neck, and bring him to me in the city of the Asuras. And Sakka, Lord of the Devas, addressed the Tawatimsa Devas thus: dear sirs, in the impending battle between the Devas and the Asuras, if the Devas win and the Asuras are defeated, bind Vepacitti, Lord of the Asuras, by his four limbs and neck, and bring him to me in the Sudama Assembly Hall. The Sudama Assembly Hall is the main hall of the Tawatimsa heaven, is where Sakka has his throne. In the battle, bhikkhus, the Devas won and the Asuras were defeated. Then the Tawatinsa Devas bound Vepacitti by his four limbs and neck and brought him to Sakka in the Sudama Assembly Hall. When Sakka was entering and leaving the Sudama Assembly Hall, Vepacitti, bound by his four limbs and neck, abused and reviled him with rude and harsh words. Then bhikkhus, Matali, the charioteer, addressed Sakka, Lord of the Devas, in verse. So before we enter to this kind of poems and this conversation between Matali and Sakka, I think it's in the comments. In the commentaries. I don't remember exactly where, but this chain, that it was a special chain, and Vepacitti was enchained with this chain, and it was specially, 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 it was speci created, because every time that Vepacitti has in his mind a thought that it was uh, full with violence, full with harsh words, and in his thought they have abusive words, this change uh, constringe their neck. And every time that Vepacitti in his mind has thought of loving kindness, of compassion, or he thought that the devas are righteous, the devas are good people, this change lose their grip. So this is a very interesting lesson, because this is exactly what we feel uh, when we are anger with something, when we have aversion, especially strong aversion to something. And this kind of thoughts generally are produced by some kind of feelings. So the feeling is first, and then the thought arises in our mind to somehow justify these feelings, and we start to feel not only anger, but afterwards we could feel remorse, we could feel anguish, and another kind of feelings that are very unwholesome and bring a lot of suffering to ourselves. And somehow in this sutta is not talked directly, but it is between the lines we can read, or we can see forgiveness. If we are ready to forget something, our mind will be more light, will be lighter, and will be with more space. And from that space and from that openness, we can see, in this case, the conflict from a different point of view. So let's continue with the sutta and we see how it goes. So Matali said, when face to face with Vepacitti, is it Magaba? Magaba is another, I don't know if this word exists in English, epithet of Saka. From fear or weakness that you endure him so patiently, listening to his harsh words? And Saka replied, it is neither through fear nor weakness that I am patient with Vepacitti. How can a wise person like me engage in combat with a fool? So this is a very interesting reply, because Saka start to somehow teach to Matali how important is to cultivate patience and openness. And the first thing that Saka clarify is he's not feeling fear and he's not feel weakness. He is patient because he is wise, and he could understand that the reaction of Vepacitti is due to his recent defeat. And from that defeat as a condition, anger and aversion arise in his mind. So Matali insists, fools would vent their anger even more if no one would keep them in check. Hence his drastic punishment, the wise man should restrain the fool. So it's very interesting, because Matali is very concerned about how Saka is show or appear in front of everyone. Matali is not concerned, or he's not mindful regarding the state of mind but what is the event look like for the society, for the outside? And Saka replied, I myself think this alone is the way to check the fool. When one knows one's foe is angry, one mindfully maintain one's peace. So again, Saka is teaching another lesson that when you can recognize as enemy or foe as the angry, if you are mindful at that moment, you can maintain your own peace. So the underlying lesson here is the lack of reaction. And here is the big knot of the question. If we take the dependent origination as a model of how mind works, we are going to see that between feeling and craving, we have a big knot. And this is what we're talking about here, Saka. Here, Saka is telling us that we are here harsh words, and this is only one thing, and painful feeling, and nothing else. If we can see that that is a painful feeling in our ears, in this case, and we not react to that, this big knot between feeling and craving is cut. Because what is going on here between feeling and craving is where our underlying tendencies have the condition to arise. That is the reason why generally it's so hard to see this reaction of the mind, this crave. I like it, I don't like it, or I am that. Because these three have a correspondence with three underlying tendencies. The underlying tendency to sensual pleasure, I like it. The underlying tendency to aversion, I don't like it. And the underlying tendency to ignorance, I am that. I'm some kind of identity. The other four are the underlying tendency to views, the underlying tendency to doubt, the underlying tendency to existence, and the seventh is the underlying tendency to, conceit. Yeah, that is the mind that always is comparing with something. So here is, I think for me, here is the most important part of the sutta. We have to be mindful enough to see this process. When some feeling arises, we have to see what's going on in our mind. And if we don't react to that, we are not created more karma. We are don't created more reaction, because is the reaction itself is rooted in ignorance. So if it's rooted in ignorance and conceit, in some part of my mind, I think that I am that, this is mine, this is myself. But if we recognize that feeling and we don't react, or even if we have a reaction, but we let it go through the 6 R's, so right effort, we are going to see at that moment, first of all, relief. And then from this, especially the third R, that is relaxing, we're going to see space. And from that space, we can turn back to our object of meditation, to metta or karuna, compassion, or wherever it might be. And from that point of view, we are not going to create more karma. This is very important, because this is the way, through right effort, in which the mind, little by little, gradually, will going to find nibbana. Because nibbana is the element that is unintended. Nirvana is no object. Nirvana is emptiness. So when in our practice, daily practice, or even in our meditation, we recognize this space when the mind relax and open, tranquilize, at that moment, the mind is undirected, is empty. Empty of what? Empty of the self that arises due to that reaction. Because I just let go craving. And craving is the fuel to suffering. So this is why it's so important the relaxation or the tranquility. Tranquility is passaddhi in Pali, and tranquility is one of the 7 enlightenment factors. Because this brings little by little more space. If I have more space in my mind, I can see this process of the mind. So, Matali again, I see this fault of Asawa in practicing patience endurance. When the fool thinks of you thus, he endures me out of fear. The dolt will chase you even more, as a bull does one who flees. And Saka replies, let it be whether or not he thinks he endures me out of fear, of goals that culminate in one's own good, none is found better than patience. So here again, it's very important that Saka is not interested in what the other thinks about him. His main task is to observe his own mind. And because of that, he can, the word is not tolerate, because he understands that he can cultivate equanimity. It's not here presented in the sutta, but equanimity is one of the main aspects of the Dhamma, because a mind which is cultivated through equanimity will find in a very, very easy way patience. And this patience is not related to repression or uh, be polite or politically correct. Is recognize that maybe in our mind could arise any kind of feelings. The equanimity gives us the possibility to accept any kind of reaction that happen in our mind. And this is a very important aspect. We don't have to repress what we're feeling. We have to accept what we're feeling, because through that acceptation, we can see how the process of the mind works. And with that path, we are not going to fight ourselves. And if we don't fight ourselves, we don't need to fight other people neither. So Saka insists, when a person endowed with strength patiently endures a weakling, they call that the supreme patience. The weakling must be patient always. They call that strength not strength at all, the strength that is the strength of folly. But no one can reproach a person who is strong because guarded by Dhamma. One who repays an angry man with anger thereby makes things worse for himself. Not repaying an angry man with anger once wins a battle hard to win. He practices for the welfare of both, his own and the others. When knowing that his foe is angry, he mindfully maintains his peace. When he achieves the cure of both, his own and the others, the people who consider him a fool are unskilled in the Dhamma. So, it's very interesting because for Matali, be a strong person is related with show strength. It's like a peacock with his feather. And this is the natural reaction. Any mammal in the nature in present of fear will try to transform her body in more transform in a bigger way, show the fangs, the claws. But for Saka, it's not that kind of strength that he's talking about. He's talking about to be equanimous, and that equanimity is what brings strength to the mind. So when you are really strong, you are guarded by Dhamma. If you keep the precepts, you are guarded by Dhamma. If you have mindfulness in your own mind, you are guarded by Dhamma. Mindfulness is the preceptor. Mindfulness is the guardian. Why? Because when we are mindful, we remember to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. And this is important. It's not so clear sometimes to understand this definition. But what is remember to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another? And this is related to especially to these two links, feeling and craving. And this one can practice during meditation, especially during meditation, because maybe in the late daily activities it's not too easy, except that the practitioner would a very experienced person. But the feeling is arise. When the feeling arises, if we are really mindful, and we start to see that the mind start to feel a little contraction, very little, or have some kind of movement. This little contraction is the beginning of craving. Somehow, the mind wants to see what's going on with this feeling. This is very biologic. It's a biological reaction. I feel something, I have to see what is going on, because potentially it could be dangerous. But this process is so powerful that even in meditation, we are in our house, in a very safe environment, and the mind reacts at the same, like if I was maybe in the jungle, reacts. And this is the nature of the mind, the reaction. So if we are mindful, we are going to see this little movement as if in that moment we apply the 6 R's and we relax and we come back to the object of meditation. And we, with keen with keen sight, we can see this kind of movement. In a very short time, we are going to experience a strong, peaceful of mind. But if our mindful is not so powerful and the craving arises, oh, I don't like this thought of this feeling, we are going to start to associate this reaction to some thoughts. I don't like it because, and this is grasping, attachment. Because what is grasping, what is attachment, what is upadana in Pali, are the stories that that our mind create to justify or sustain this kind of reaction, that kind of reaction. I like it, I don't like it, or I am that. And generally, this is the link that the people describe. It's not so easy to see craving after feeling, But because we turn to be, uh, we are human beings, so our mind is biologically have the tendency to explain things, and we're trying to explain or conceptualize everything that is in the world. This is the link that we generally relate to the most. And then arises existence, bhava, or the habitual tendency. But craving or grasping or habitual tendency or existence, in any of these three links, we can apply the 6 R's. The difference is rooted that the more is this process unfolded, the more difficult is to apply the 6 R's, because from any of this link could arise papancha, could arise the mental proliferation of anything, and this also will bring more new feelings, new reactions, emotion, and even very powerful emotions. That is the reason why it's so important, mindfulness and equanimity, and especially patience. That is the main aspect here. So the first lesson here is be patient with ourselves, not with the others. Of course, with the other too, but with ourselves. But generally, we are very impatient regarding something. For instance, if we are waiting in a line of everything in the airport, in the supermarket, we can see that maybe we are tapping with our foot or moving our fingers. And this is because we are waiting, we are restlessness in our mind. So patience is very important. And when this is beautiful, because here Saka says, one who repays angry man with anger, thereby making things worse for himself. Yes, because we fuel the conflict. Not repaying an angry man with anger, one wins a battle hard to win. He practices for the welfare of both, his own and the others. This is very important. When we not don't react to the provocation, we are cultivate the welfare, the well-being of both. And at that moment, we are very generous with ourselves and the other. So patience also is a very important condition to generosity. So in the last paragraph, when he achieved the cure of both his own and the others, the people who consider him a fool are unskilled in the Dhamma. In this paragraph, Saka is talking about that the people who judge to the person that is patient and mindful and equanimous, they really don't understand what is the Dhamma about. Why? Because they are seeing only what happened outside. They are seeing that it's important what is our reaction towards the environment, towards the other, toward our family, but they don't see what's going on in the mind. This remember me some stories that are especially found in the Zen tradition, especially when I remember one. It's a very short tale. There were two monks that they were walking through the forest. One was an elder, and the other was very young. I think it was a novice. So they were walking through the forest, and sometimes they arrived to a river, and they found a girl who was afraid to cross the river because she had fear to the water. And the elder carried carried the girl to the river and crossed the girl to the river. And in the other shore, they say goodbye, and the monks continued with their journey. When they were near to the monastery, the young one, very impatient, exploded and said to the elder, how could you do that? How could you do that? You're a monk. You cannot touch a girl. This is a very important fault. And the elder, with with a patient's mind, said to him, I am already dropped the girl. Why you don't? So this is a beautiful simile, like here Matali and Saka. The elder, he just helped a person who need help to cross a river. He was generous, and that's all. They don't feel any attachment to the girl. They don't feel any craving to the girl. They don't feel any sexual desire. He, his mind was in peace. But the young one has to cultivate more because he was attached to an, a rule that is only what is my behavior is not what is going on in my mind, but what I show to the others. So the Buddha said, so because if Saka, lord of the Devas, subsisting on the fruit of his own merit, exercising supreme sovereignty and rulership over the Tawatimsa Devas, will be one who speaks in praise of patience and gentleness, then how much more would it be fitting here for you, who gave gone forth in such a well-expounded Dhamma and discipline, to be patient and gentle. So, generally, these kind of stories were shared by the Buddha with the monks to highlight some aspects that I think that are related to some issues that happen at the moment. Maybe some monks have quarreling between them, and then the Buddha bring this story to prove his point and help, of course, to the monks to see the issue from a different point of view. There is another nuance here that I want to share with you. And it's about that the right view. It's not too easy to see this right view in this sutta. But for Vepacitti, it was something personal, this battle. But for Saka, I think at this moment, Saka was already a Sotapanna. He has already arise the Dhammachaku, the eye of the wisdom. And I think that he understand the situation and the condition of the Vepacitti mind. And because of that, he could base his action in that wisdom, and then it was easily to be patient, equanimous, and mindful. So the eye of the Dhamma is not something that we have to think about. It's just something that arises after the experience of Nibbana, the stream entry, and it's a different perspective in which the person sees the life. It's not something analytical. It's not something that we have to intellectually understand because it's a change of perspective. So this was the sutta for today. If Juan, you have a question, we can talk in English or we can talk in Spanish if you prefer.
Okay, let's go for English.
All right.
You mentioned equanimity as
Yeah.
an important factor to obtain this patience. Do you mean equanimity as an object of meditation? Do you mean equanimity as a more general, or is this the only object of meditation to obtain that patience?
No, no. All the Brahma Viharas have some kind of equanimity. So if you practice loving kindness, at some point, equanimity will arise in your mind, not as an object, but as a factor. So you have already that kind of experience, so you understand what equanimity is. But equanimity is not something so easily to bring in our mind because it's a very high feeling. Because equanimity is the possibility to accept whatever arises in our mind. Why we could accept that? Because when you cultivate through any of the Brahma Viharas, equanimity will arise and you can start to see the things as they really are. What is that? It's not take the things not take things personally. So we understand this is an impersonal process. We understand this is impermanent, whatever it might be. And when we repeatedly we see the things through this, the equanimity will grow by itself. And if we continue practicing meditation and if we take to our life loving kindness, of compassion, we are going to see more, we're going to feel more peace and calm. And this also will bring more more equanimity. But this equanimity also is one of the conditions that fuel mindfulness. Because when we are equanimous, our mindfulness is really sharp. Eventually, if you have equanimity as an object of meditation, you will start to see that this equanimity have layers or levels, and is a very, very good object of meditation. But I do not recommend to start with equanimity if this feeling is not really clear, because generally two happens. Two things happens. The first one, maybe if you start with equanimity, the mind will become dull or even some kind of sloth and torpor. Or if the feeling is not clear, maybe indifference will arise. That is some kind of denial. No, it's okay. I don't feel nothing. And that is not the case. Equanimity is I have this bad feeling, sadness, anger, doubt, wherever it might be. But my mind doesn't react. It's okay that I feel this or boredom, whatever it might be. So gradually, the equanimity will be an essential part of the cultivation of the mind. And little by little, will be more present in our daily life. And this is really interesting because the Buddha said that equanimity is a happy feeling or happiness inside. And this is really important. There is no such thing like equanimity with a long face. Equanimity has always lightness, has always smile, not sometimes very big smile, but a very gentle smile.
Thank you.
And to you. Okay. Do you have another question? All right.
Thank you.
Let's share some merit. Sorry. Here. All right. Now we are going to share in English. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kind of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May the alone protect the Buddha dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Gracias, Juan.
Thank you.
Espera que